Welcome, I am Hatim Ali from CARAS. We have been working with children from Furzedown Primary School to make documentary about migration to southwest London.
We've been interviewing people from various countries who have migrated here since 1948. We hope you enjoy the many extraordinary stories they have to share.
Something calling me, although I wish you well, I can't go on, filling in a harmony upon a broken song. I may see your face again.
At first, when I came, like say the first year, you said if I had the money, I would get straight on a plane and go back, because the culture was so different. The climate was different, it was cold, living condition was not very nice, not very comfortable, but you get used to it after a while.
It's my turn now to give myself another chance to see if I know how.
At the time, England had opened for all the Caribbean country them. So if you want to come over and work, you want to be nurses, you want to train, you want to go college, it was like that. So it wasn't a problem.
I mean, immigrants were welcome in a way, yeah, because there was a lot of gap or need for skilled people. That's why my husband got a job immediately.
You know, they recruited a lot of people from the West Indies to come over and help to not only rebuild the country, but they need people in the National Health Service, you know, London Transport. They just needed people to come, and obviously a lot of them was given a guarantee that they could then stay in England.
I was born in Kenya, a town called Nanyuki. My mom, she was born in India, but my father was in Kenya since 1939. The independence came down at the time. The president there, it was Jomo Kenyatta at that time. So when I was almost in 1920, because we were holding a British passport and the political side was not very good and we were not earning good money in Africa. So I came here in 1968 February.
Bangladesh, East Pakistan, part of Pakistan, it became independent in 1971. So during the Liberation War, when Bangladesh was created, there were a lot of political disturbance, turmoil. In that circumstances, we thought that it is better to go to England.
My father came here in 1955 or 56, shortly after my twin brothers were born in Jamaica. And while he was here, he saved up some money and then sent for my mum. And she came over in 1957, a year before I was born.
Where I'm from, they're farming. That's what they do for a living. And I would not get the job that I seek in the island. So my parents sent me to seek a better living somewhere else, which was England.
So I came to earn some money, send some money back to my parents, that they may have a better life also.
My parents left before me in the early 60s. They came over here. And they intended to sort of get some work, earn some money, and then return to Jamaica. But because after about a few years, they had 2 more children, and they decided, well, they're going to stay now. So then they decided it was time for me to come and join them in England.
I came to do nursing. I had a sister already here who was a nurse. It was easier to get into nursing in the UK than it was in Trinidad.
I chose to leave my country because I had to join my husband. He was studying here. And I thought I may come here and visit, stay with him while he's studying, and also, the opportunity to see the country, and that's why.
I was born in a nursing home in Calcutta, India. My mother was born in Aberdeen, in Scotland. You know, my mother always used to talk of home, and she always used to say, oh, when we go home. And I say, but we are at home, because all I knew was India. I came here to go to university, and I presumed after I finished university that I would go back home to India.
I didn't choose to leave my country. My parents came here from Jamaica, and after a few years of them being here, they sent for my siblings and myself.
I can't remember what my expectations were, but the one thing I remembered being surprised about, that the sun was shining and it still wasn't hot. I thought the sun would always produce a lot of heat. And also, I had never seen white people emptying dustbins and cleaning the street. So those are the sort of memories, my first memories of coming, you know.
We'd had presents from England from my aunts before, and I remember one particular thing called a Viewmaster, where we saw pictures of the tourist sites like Big Ben and so on, and we used to be really excited to look at those. But actually, I didn't really have any expectation more than a 12-year-old having an adventure going on a plane.
I already knew that it will be very cold. There will be lots of snow. There will be very few sunlight in 6 months of the year. So I had a little bit of idea, but I was mentally prepared and wished to take up the challenge that I will set up myself over here.
Before I arrived here, it was a land of a dream, that you dream and you believe that it was a land of milk and honey, that the street was paved with gold. You would have a wonderful time here. But when I got here, it was a different situation.
I remember I couldn't sleep the night, and excited because it was a few years that I hadn't seen my parents. I think it was about 5 years or something like that. When the taxi came, all the neighbours ran out to tell me bye.
I was just told by my nan that you're going to England. I was 8. I was thinking, well, no, I don't want to go to England. Why am I going to England? I'm quite happy in Jamaica with my friends. But no, within a few weeks, I had my bags packed and my nan took me to the airport. And I spent most of the day crying because I didn't want to leave Jamaica. And I think I cried all the way to the plane.
I remember the night before I came, all the children in the village and the adults all came together and gave me a party at the church. That was really exciting. That was the centre of attention. And then we drove in a crowded van to Kingston, to the airport. That was really exciting. And we ran around and we played. And then it was time to get on the plane for me. And then I got on the plane. That was exciting. And as I sat down, my whole world fell apart. It was horrible. The journey was horrible, the food was different, the food was white, sloppy. Lots of children on the plane who were being looked after by the air hostesses because we were unaccompanied children coming to England to be met by our family at the other end. So we had no one with us. Then the plane stopped in New York and we had to sit on the plane for a long time, and lots of us were crying, not eating. So we were hungry, we were miserable. And I really missed my 8 brothers and sisters. And then the plane landed. I met my aunt and uncle, who immediately started to correct the way I spoke. Because in Jamaica, if an adult speaks to you, we'd say, yes, ma'am, or yes, sir. And I was doing that. And she was like, England, you don't know, you can't use those words. Sorry, I have to say it like that. And immediately I was crushed. And everything I said was corrected.
It was very tiresome because it takes about 9-10 hours to land here. And when I came here, it was very cold. I wanted to go back. I cried. I wanted to go home again.
I came on a P&O ship called the Stratneva. It was a 15-day trip. But to me it was a holiday because I had no restraints. I could stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning if I wanted to, whereas when I was at home, we had very strict parents. We had special bedtime and thing, and this is the first time I had nobody restricting me. I used to go to the dances, and they used to have entertainment on the ship, and I went to every single one because first time I could go to every single one.
So I was kind of, for about 2 weeks, I didn't actually speak to my parents because I didn't know what to say to them because I didn't know them. So I haven't seen them since I was 18 months old. So, you know, in all honesty, they could have been, you know, two perfect strangers to pick me up at the airport and gone off with me.
When I came from plane, so, you know, you got on the plane and then we got off at Gatwick, and that was a shock. Because when I got off, I've never seen trees without leaves. And so I'm on the train, and I'm saying to myself, where am I going? There are no leaves on these trees.
So when I came, I didn't like it nearly almost 6 to 8 months. And my intention was to go back. But my father says, you haven't seen the season yet. You haven't seen the summer yet. So I said, well, I'll stay summer and see how it is. So if you don't like after the summer, you can come back. So when I see the summer, all the trees which was completely empty, all start coming, all greenery coming, all the grass coming. I could see it's blooming, so all the flower coming. So my heart and my mind settled somehow.
The day I landed, it was a beautiful day. It was very nice and sunny and bright. It was the month of September. I still remember, and it seemed to me the warmth of the sun, it embraced me.
A cousin of mine came to meet me at Tilbury Docks, and we got on this train, and a little bit of sun came in the train, and to tease me, my cousin knelt down and he said, oh, thank you, God, for the sun. So I presumed there was no sun in England, but he did that to tease me.
It was cold. Being it was in August, my mum goes to me, well, this is summer. What is it? Summer? So at the time when I got off the plane, I got into my dad's car, she gave me 2 jumpers and a coat. And this was in the middle of August. And it was sunny, but this was still cold in comparison to where I just come from.
We took the train to Victoria. And then I remember saying to my mother, this is a long journey. When are we going to get there? And what are all these buildings that, you know, and she'd say, they're not buildings, they're houses. So I said, but they're so close together. And she said, yes, that's how they are here in England.
You see, where I'm from, houses do not join together. We do not have chimneys unless it's where the factories are. And we wouldn't have smoke coming out of the chimneys. So to me, as we drove along to where I was living, I was looking and I said, oh, lots of factories, lots of work. And then when I got to one of the factories, the door was open and they said, this is where we're living. And
This is crazy. The houses were like little boxes, you know? And I remember going into one room and I opened the cupboard, which is now, as I grew older, I found out it was an airing cupboard, right? And I thought to myself, oh, this room is small, you know? I'll never forget that. I opened the door and I said, wait, this room's small, you know?
Oh, we all had challenges to find because people wouldn't rent. You're a foreigner, and because of the color of your skin, it was hard to find places to live. They would advertise in the newspaper, and then when you go and you knock on the door, they say, sorry, there's no vacancy, when you know that the vacancy was still there.
So we tried. My sister by then didn't have a strong Trinidadian accent because she'd been here for a while. So people couldn't tell on the telephone whether she was not English or not. So we decided we'll go to a phone box and ring. And she sounded English and they said, yes, it's available. And the flat's just over the road, but by the time we crossed the road, the flat became unavailable. So it was quite hard, really quite hard in the end. In the end, we got a house share where we had one room. A Polish landlord owned the house, and so we shared this room and shared bathrooms and things with loads of other people.
The advertisement for properties was really tricky because the notices would say, no Irish, no blacks, no dogs. And for that, my parents decided that they're not going to send for us as their children until they had their own home.
The first place I lived in UK, we had a basement flat, and it was freezing cold. And we used to have, we had paraffin heaters, where you have a glass thing at the back of this heater, and you move it from room to heat the place. But you have to turn it off at night, because if you were to sleep with that paraffin heater, when you wake up in the morning, your nostrils will be blocked and you can't breathe properly. So it wasn't very good for your health.
When they lived in the one room, they used to use the window ledge as a fridge because it was so cold. The milk would go out there, the butter and eggs and things like that, things that you'd normally keep in the fridge.
And we lived in one room. 5 of us lived in one room. So all to separate the bedroom, sort of kind of like the living bit, the living area, was a curtain.
In those days, you'll find all 4 blokes of us, 4 men, 4 boys, living in one room. We'd rent a room together. So it wasn't easy. You had no privacy. And the house you rent, the one room, is 1 bathroom, and the rest of the household have to share the 1 bath. And then sometimes you'll have a cooker on the landing. It wasn't easy until people start buying their own.
I didn't have any challenge finding somewhere to live because my parents had already bought a house, yeah? They had the challenge, not me, you know what I mean? So they had a big challenge finding somewhere to live. They had to earn money, they had to band together, live in one room. So they started what is called a partner, which is still running today. I'm in a partner now. There was 10 of us, for example, putting in £100 each, that's £1,000. And so every month somebody would have £1,000. And that's how they used to have to do it until such time as the banks allowed them to, to take loans out.
In 1973, we bought our first house in this country near Streatham Hill on Emmanuel Road. That road we had our first house. So that was excited to move to our own place with a garden, with the swings for the children.
When my mum and dad first bought their house and started making it really nice, there's this thing about the front room in people's houses. They'd keep the plastic on the sofa so that you wouldn't mess it up. And we weren't allowed to go in there unless we had visitors on special days. So it would be kept locked because they worked so hard to maintain this beautiful front room with pictures up on the wall and really nice stuff. And there'd be a bar in there where they'd have crystal glasses would be kept in there, and some of the white rum. They'd use it to entertain when their friends come, and also to show. It was almost like a showing of, look what I've achieved by coming here.
The living room keys. Until this day, she still locks the front room. Oh dear. At least she hasn't got the plastic on the chairs anymore.
And the jobs that they were used to back home, it wasn't the jobs they got here. Because my mother came here as a teacher, and then she had to work in Philips, the TV makers factory in Croydon.
So I think the disappointment came in the fact that there was no opportunities as such at that time except for cheap labour. So although they were very, very skilled in their jobs, in their professions as a carpenter, as a seamstress, when they came over here, they were given menial tasks.
There were a lot of factories in London. There were a lot of buildings going up. Because you see, you must remember this country had not long fought a war and have to be rebuilding. So you could leave one job at dinner time and come back and get another job and come back and give you notice to start the next job.
a guy who ran an optical factory gave me a job there. He had worked in India, and he sort of said, you know, you don't need O-levels or anything for this job, but you need a job, so he gave me a job. So he was very helpful. And on the whole, people were generally, you know, provided we didn't want anywhere to live, they were fine.
Because she was told that if you go for an interview, you need to dress up. So her idea of dressing up was like church, going to church or going out. So she put on this amazing, glamorous dress to go to get a job. I think it was in a biscuit factory.
I didn't know any better, because I thought you have to dress up if you're going to look for a job. You got to look good, you know.
Well, my husband was receiving money from home because he came as a student. And when we find out that was not enough, so I took a job in a factory.
Well, when I came here, I was learning to do hairdressing, and then after that, I started doing sewing, work in the East London.
And my mother, she would go to work at night, to work at the hospital, because she did night work. She'd come home in the morning when my dad was going to work, so they'd swap shifts. We would get ready for school, to go to school. So we'd have our breakfast and everything. Then she had a machine in the cellar. So she's going down the cellar sometimes before I left for school to make toys, and she would take in orders from machine factories and toy factories. And when I came home from school, she'd either be down the cellar or in the kitchen making the dinner. We'd have dinner. I don't remember her sleeping.
I set up my own business from 1974 onwards, and it was a bookshop. I was supplying books to all the public libraries all over Britain and to all the schools, and also to Europe and to other parts of the world. And I used to import books from Bangladesh, and in English language and also in Bengali.
I've scored into the fields. Now, sister love, you got to wait until I have my means, yeah.
I started with some records from Jamaica, and they went very well. I was quite successful with those. Start to do a little distribution, and in doing this distribution, I walk into Tooting Broadway Market, and there was a little record shop. And eventually he said to me, he's selling out, am I interested? And I thought, okay, I'll take it. And that's when I get involved in the record business. And stuck here until this day.
And give them soldering. Soldering where the whole lady want. Soldering. Soldering where the whole woman want. Soldering.
Yeah, when I first started nursing, I remember my first ward, the lady wouldn't let me help her because, you know, as a basic nurse, you did a lot of washing people and feeding people and the basic jobs. And she wouldn't let me wash her. And she said, take your dirty black hands off me. And I complained to the sister. I said, she doesn't want you to wash me. This is what she said. And the sister just said to me, oh, she's confused. Don't bother about it. And I said, well, she isn't so confused. She seems to know that I'm black. So, you know, so I was a bit upset about that, but.
At work, we all would be one. But after we come out on the street, we would be different. You would be white and I'm black. That's what I find was strange, because it's your best friend at work. But when you leave out of work, it didn't work that way. So that was very, very strange to me.
I remember somebody calling me a wog when I walk into the shop, but I'd never heard the word wog. I didn't know what it means. It's only when I went back home and said to my sister, somebody called me a wog. She says, well, I hope you told them, you know, where to go. I said, well, what does it mean? And she explained. So, you know, I had to learn a new language of racism, really.
My dad was somebody who, when he's coming from work, and the ice cream van, you know about ice cream vans? Yeah? And it would pull up outside our house, and my dad would buy ice cream for all the children in the neighborhood, because that's how our parents were. One of the siblings from the neighbor came out, saw that her sister was eating the ice cream cone, and she grabbed it from the child and said to her, "Where did you get this?" And the child says, "From that man, he bought it for us." And she says, "Don't you take anything from those niggers." And she threw away the ice cream. And my dad was very hurt, and so were we. And we said that, my dad said, "Don't worry, she doesn't know any better."
But I think our parents coming over in those days were very humble. Then they would turn the other cheek, or they would just try to be as nice as possible. And they were, you know, very welcoming to other people, and they couldn't understand why it wasn't the other way around.
We lived in Tootenbeck, and then my parents, they was offered a council place in a place called Carshalton, which is just outside of Tooting, which was, I would say, a predominantly 100% basically on white area. From about day one, when I went to school, I kind of got racism. I suppose I spent the first year of my school life fighting people for being racist towards me. As I got older and I went to my senior school, it got just as bad. It was 1,200 kids and just me. I fought a lot again. I was beaten up quite a lot. And it wasn't just in school. I got beaten up, or people attacked me in the streets, just walking along the road. I sustained a broken jaw, 2 black eyes, cracked ribs, bruised knees, bruised back. I think, yeah, that was bad, I think. Yeah.
Mitcham was where all the people like skinheads, teddy boys, that's what they used to call them, skinheads and teddy boys used to be, right? And the teddy boys, we used to have to run away from these boys or fight them. Or you know, you'd be on a common and you'd just see a group of them coming over. If there's a group of you, then it's up to you whether you're gonna stand and fight.
Basically, there was a lot of racism, lots of name calling, lots of people calling you wogs, lots of go back in your tree, go back to your own country. That kind of thing happened in the school. The teachers didn't do anything to stop it necessarily.
So I always felt that my bum was too big, I felt my lips were too thick, I felt my skin was too dark, I needed my hair straight. So it's so confusing for a child. And I think when the Black Power movement came about, it was okay to wear your hair in an afro. It was okay to put lip gloss on lipstick on your lips and make them look voluptuous. It was okay to have a big bum. Yeah, so that's when we started wearing the afros, hairstyle, and you know, and even some of my white friends were sometimes they're more rebellious than even I was because they could see the different types of treatment that they were privy to. But as you grow up with that generation of children and became teenagers, and we all sort of liked the same type of music, and so my friends were coming to do reggae dances with us. And
then we mixed with a lot of white kids, a lot of Indian kids, which we never used to do in Jamaica, right? So obviously it was a new thing to us, but it was exciting, and it was the same for them because there was not that many black kids in the school.
Even though there was racism in my school, in both my schools, I had my friends. I did have white friends because there was nobody else. There was no black people, so I didn't have any black friends.
I was young and I thought I could make a life in 3 years with all the money I would make here, and I would go back home and set myself up for better things. But what really happened, within that 3 years, I started having children. And so your stay become longer and longer and longer and longer until I'm still here.
Oh my goodness. It was difficult at first raising our family because back in the West Indies, when you have your family, everybody take care of your family. You know, so your grandma, your aunties, your uncles, everyone's there to help you to give you that extended support. But here in England, you don't have that support. You have to pay for childcare. Very hard. Very hard because I had no extended families. So I mostly did part-time. So I'd work when the children were at school and you finish in time to go and pick them up from school.
Gradually, a lot more people arriving here, and we were establishing our little community. So a religious festival took place, you know, and on a special religious day. So there would be music. Whoever have little knowledge previously acquired from the country, they would teach, and a school opened, you know, a small sort of Sunday school, and so we used to take the children there. They would learn little bit of our culture and language.
Well, we stick to our music, and we have friends who, you know, from the Caribbean, so we all would meet up at each other's houses, play music, cook our type of food that we have, and that's how we keep the culture going.
One of my husband's friends had a ticket for his workplace, so he asked me if I could accompany him to the dance. So I didn't want to go, but my husband said, "Come on, get your clothes on and go, because I don't go anywhere, I don't." And I went, and they were dancing. It was rock and roll, and when the dance was over, I won the competition. I didn't know that it was a competition. These English people, I don't think they know anything about dancing, because they was just all going around the ring like when you at school. Yeah, so, and I was dressing.
When my parents came over, we used to listen to ska. We say ska. Over here they say ska music, ska. And there was blues beat, and my dad used to have this box with all these like little records, and he still got it in our front room at my mum's house. They called it a gram in those days, where you put a disc on with the music, and it would drop down and the needle would come, and sometimes it would scratch and it would play the music. My dad always used to lie in the front room.
In those particular times, a lot of people used to have these kind of parties. People could just turn up. They used to be called blues parties, and people used to turn up when they played reggae all night and stuff like that. But it was mostly for black people, so they could kind of still experience their culture and their music and everything else.
We were used to one type of food in the Caribbean, but you couldn't get it here. So you had to adjust your menu, put it that way, because there was lots of the food you couldn't get.
And the first spice shop that opened, it was in Warren Street, and it was called Patak's. And you still get Patak's now, but I think Patak's opened in 1957 or 58. And that was the first time you went into a shop and you could buy, you know, all the spices.
But you would only be able to get Caribbean food, West Indian food in Brixton, because that's where the majority of Caribbean people lived.
I did find some of the food quite difficult, and I remember my pet hate was Brussels sprouts. The smell alone was enough not to eat it, so I had a solution. So when I was working in the factory, which was my first thing I did when I came in the optical factory, I took a bottle of West Indian pepper sauce with me, And I'll get the English dinner and I'll plaster it with pepper sauce, and everybody look at me as though I'm crazy, but it made it edible for me.
I didn't mind eating fish and chips, that was my favorite. When I ate that fish and chips first, and I thought, oh, that's smashing, you know. I loved it.
Summer's here, I can feel it moving in the air. Can you feel the summer?
My favorite part about coming to England, I wasn't so hemmed in as to what I can do and what I couldn't do. In India, our parents were very, very strict. We never went anywhere without somebody going with us, which you would call a chaperone now.
You just walk on the street, and everywhere you could go yourself, alone. You know, in our country, we could never dream myself going out somewhere alone.
So you weren't isolated. You didn't have to be isolated. There was library, there's art galleries if you live in London. There's museums, there's plenty to do and easy to get there. I like that. I didn't have any of this where I lived in Trinidad. There was nothing to do. This is why so many of us came over.
I think coming to England was a good thing for my parents, even though it was tough and it was hard. But in the long run, it was a good thing for us to come here. It was better for us. It was better for me. It gave me more opportunity than I would have had in Jamaica. And it's given me a much better life than I would have normally probably would have had.
I've made friends here. I know my surroundings. I know the place. I left there when I was 12. I've been back many, many times. But I just think my home is here.
Entire family root is here. My children, my grandchildren, great-grandchildren. So I wouldn't go back to my country now. I wouldn't know anybody there. I would be a stranger.
After living here such a long time, I feel half of me is British and half of me, maybe slightly less now, Bangladeshi. So, I can switch between two cultures. When I go to Bangladesh, I feel more British. And when I'm in Britain, I feel a little bit Bangladeshi.
I might just kick my Converse off and step into the light. 'Cause work is done. Come and put that deck chair in the sun. Can you feel the summer? 'Cause if you like, we can watch the sun sink